Welcome to the long-awaited second episode of Think Over Here. Here on Think Over Here, we like to pop around to different places around the world to explore different peoples, cultures, and stories. Last time we were in Latvia. We were talking about Names and his ring that many Latvians still wear today. And today we're going to continue on that theme of rings and share a Latvian fairy tale about a magical ring. Now, this is a fairy tale that I found in an old book of Latvian fairy tales that I picked up at a train station, actually, as I was traveling from the capital of Riga in Latvia to the city Jelgava. And as I read through this fairy tale, I thought it was fun to read about all the adventures that this boy has as we experience everything from famine to grave robbing. We even see questionable mouth hygiene practices with animals. You'll understand more as we get into the story. So let's dive right into the story. The Wonder Ring. A son had a very sick father. Now, despite his wife and the son giving the father herbs and medicine, the father did not seem to get any better. In fact, he was getting worse. And the father loved his son very much, and so, as the father lay dying, he left his son some advice. He said, "The poorest man is not the one who has no riches, but is the man who has no heart. I do not have much money to leave you, but know that I love you and your mother with all my heart." And then the father gave the son all the money that he had. 3 gold coins. Unfortunately, a few hours later, the man died. After the funeral and the mourning, the son's mother took the 3 gold coins so that she could keep them for safekeeping until the son reached a proper age to receive his inheritance left by his father. You see, the son wasn't fully grown. And so the boy and his mother continued to work the land. But luck was not with them, as their harvests were always poor. And they never really had enough food on their table. But they persevered day by day, week by week, year by year. They continued, and they were always able to find just enough food to keep them going. Years later, the boy became a fine young man and was old enough to receive his inheritance, and so he asked his mother for one of his father's gold coins so that he could go to the city and buy something to help the family. You know, like some food, maybe a new plow. Who knows, if we're getting crazy, maybe even a new cow. So the mother gave the son one of the coins, but told him to use it wisely. However, on the way to the city, the young man met an old woman with a nasty cough and her little dog. The old woman said, "Boy, help an old woman. Buy my dog. You won't regret it." "How much are we talking?" "Oh, a gold coin, just like the one you have in your pocket," she said with a sly little smile. Whoa. How did you know I had a gold coin in my pocket?" I have my ways." Of course. Being in a fairy tale, he decided to help the mysterious old woman who really needed a cough drop and knew just a little too much about his personal finances. So the young man bought the dog and led the dog home. The boy felt good about helping the old woman, but he knew that his mother wouldn't be quite as pleased. So he decided to keep this little encounter a secret. Now, when the boy returned home, and the mother saw that all he had bought was a scruffy dog with 1/3 of the father's inheritance, she was shocked and couldn't figure out why he would buy such a worthless thing. It hurts my heart to call a dog worthless, but that's what she thought. You see, she was thinking that they didn't have enough to eat between themselves, and now they had a little dog that they had to take care of. The boy said, "It's all right, it's all right. We didn't have a dog. I mean, how can you live without a dog? I mean, it's not like we've been living years and years working the farm without a dog. But we needed a dog. You see, the dog, he can watch the livestock. We can play with him. Heck, maybe I'll hook him up to a little plow. That'd be fun, right? Everyone has a dog, and now we do too. And look, I've already taught him how to roll over. See? Roll over." The dog just looked at him with a confused look. We're still working on that, I guess." The boy talked his mother into it, and it's true there was some practical uses for a dog, and she was curious to see how the dog would look in that little plow, so she calmed down just a little bit. Of course, she thought that it would have been more practical to buy some food, but what was done was done. But not long after, only just a couple days later, the son asked for the second of his father's gold coins. Now, the mother really didn't want to give it to him, as she was afraid that he might waste it again. However, finally, the mother agreed to it because, after all, it was technically the boy's, and so the son went and left to the city. But just outside the city, he met the same old woman with a cat, and her cough seemed worse. "Son, buy my cat. You won't regret it." "How much?" "A gold coin." Okay, good. Well, the son bought the cat and took it home. But now his mother was truly upset. She hardly let the son walk back through the door. They didn't have enough to fill their own mouths, and then he went and bought a dog, and then he goes on and buys another dependent, and a cat no less. There was no way in the world that the mother was going to give that last coin to the son. "Look, Mom, it's all right. It's all right," the boy said. "We didn't have a cat. How can you live without a cat? Everyone else has a cat." And then he paused as he realized that now the old woman who he bought the cat from didn't have a cat. But he quickly tossed away that thought. And anyway, look, Mom, now we have a cat. We can catch all these mice and listen to its melodious meow. Meow. Oh, okay, wow. We need to work on that. Despite the boy's best efforts to settle the mom's worries, the boy really couldn't calm his mother very much, and so she refused to give him the third coin. But after several days, the son again wanted to go to the city because they still needed food, and, well, he knew that his mother wouldn't give him the coin. So, that night as his mother slept, he crept quietly into her bedroom and took the coin that rightfully belonged to him. And then he gathered what few belongings he had in a sack, and then he left the house and walked down the street with the dog and the cat, and the cat's cough was improving quite nicely, so that's good. And as he walked, he noticed a dark figure up the road ahead of them. As he got closer, he realized that it was the little old woman. But now she was just standing there by the road, alone, in the middle of the night, staring at the ground, muttering to herself. The boy thought about hurrying past her, as there was something off about her. But he decided to talk to her for the third time. And the son asked her, "Woman, what are you looking at? Do you need help?" "Ugh, yes, here 2 feet under the ground is a cellar. If you dig up the ground and lift up the cellar's hatch, then you will be in the cellar of the king's dead daughter, and she had a valuable ring on her finger. That ring I really, really want to see." Now the boy was altruistic, and so he really wanted to help the woman, even though that meant digging up a tomb to an ancient princess. I mean, what could go wrong, right? This woman was trustworthy. I mean, she did overcharge him for a dog and a cat, but these were hard times for everybody. You gotta give her a benefit of a doubt. So the boy dug up the ground. It was actually 3 feet underground, not the 2 feet like the woman had described, but he didn't have the heart to bother the old woman with such trivial details. And so, after he dug down and lifted up the hatch, he climbed down into the cellar to look for the ring. He pushed past the spider webs and cobwebs until he located the skeleton of the ancient princess. All around her were strange symbols. Some he recognized, such as the Yumi's symbol for a bountiful harvest, but others he didn't recognize. He reached down and carefully took hold of the thin gold ring. Carefully, holding his breath, he slid the ring off the skeleton's finger. For a second, he thought that he had heard a sigh come from the ancient princess once the ring was removed, but he shook the thought out of his head. Such silliness! He climbed back out of the cellar and gave the ring to the little old woman. The little old woman looked and looked at the ring, admiring its delicate shape and the fine symbols etched inside the band. And after a few minutes, she finally said, "Boy, buy this ring. You won't regret it." "Okay, wait, whoa. I just got that ring." "Yes, but I told you where it was, and then you gave it to me. I mean, seriously, you should have charged me your 2 gold rings back and had me buy the ring. Then you could have gone back to your mom and the farm and you wouldn't have had to run away. Oh well, I guess you've learned the hard way." Fine. How much? Let me guess. My final gold coin? Yep. You really are consistent. Yep. So the little old woman took the coin, but before leaving, she turned and gave the boy some advice. Boy, you might be kind of foolish, but you are kind, and you are true. I like you. Listen. Some things are best left buried, if you know what I mean. Be sure to close the cellar hatch tightly and bury it again. Close the latch. It's true, the boy was good, and he was true, and he was kind. But the boy was also curious. And he really wanted to go back down into the cellar to look around and maybe find some other treasures. And so he reopened the cellar and climbed back in. However, the second he dropped down into the cellar, he heard a shuffling, scratching noise, and at that very moment, he heard the hatch slam down tight. The boy tried to lift the hatch, but it was closed tight like a prison. A good amount of time passed, and dread slowly spread over him like the rising tide. And as he sat in the darkness, he thought he could hear a raspy voice. The voice seemed to say, "The ring. The ring." The boy looked down on his finger, but he couldn't see it. It was pitch black. Dang, he thought, I really am stuck. So anxiously, he began to turn the ring on his finger. You know, with that cat and with that dog, he thought, it was all good and well, but I went and got this worthless ring, and now things have completely gone the other way. I should never have bought this ring from that old woman. Saying this, the son again heard a scratching noise. But where was it coming from? Could it be the skeleton? He crept toward it. But then he realized the noise wasn't coming next to him from the skeleton. It was coming from above. It was above him. Then he heard a bark and a healthy meow. It was the dog and the cat working, redigging up the hatch above him. Oh, wonderful dog, wonderful cat, thank you. But you poor dog, poor cat, there's no way you'll be able to lift up the hatch. It was closed down so tightly. How sad. So close but yet so far, with the cat and the dog trying to open the hatch above him. He was still stuck. If only there was someone to help me. But then, saying those words, 6 little men ran up. Out of nowhere. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And in a blink of an eye, they lifted the hatch. Watching this, the boy was awestruck and said, "Where did you come from?" "Ah, your ring just called us. Anytime you turn your ring and desire something, then we have to come quickly and do that thing. We're ring doers. It's what we do." Oh, well, this is a marvelous turn of events. Thank you for lifting the hatch, the boy said. Now, thank you. You guys can go, but now I know if I ever need something, I will definitely give my ring a quick turn and call for you again. And then with the little men disappeared. The boy climbed out of the cellar, and this time, following the old woman's advice, he closed the cellar hatch, locked it tight, and buried it. And then the son, with the dog and the cat, went straight ahead. They still couldn't return home to his mother, because they still didn't have a gold coin. And so the boy went forward and went to find work. And now everybody knew that there was always work at the castle of the king, and so the boy with his trusty dog and friendly cat traveled for 3 days through the forests and streams until they reached the king's castle, where he asked for a job. Now, the king was very kind and offered the only job that was available at the moment for someone with his qualifications, and i.e., no skills. And the only job that was available at the time happened to be a stable boy. Well, the boy said, "What about it? That's a fine job," because the boy thought, as a stable boy, he could be free with his own thoughts. He would be able to be with his dog and his cat as he led the king's animals. And heck, maybe he could even sneak in the occasional nap under a tree as the animals went out to pasture. This was good. It was a fine job, much better than starving at the farm. And so the boy lived and worked at the castle for several months without any complaints. But one day, the stable boy thought it would be nice to have some better clothes. It wasn't fun always wearing old, tattered, muddy clothes, you know. Well, that was an easy fix. So, the boy went into the garden, turned his ring, and instantly 6 little men came. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. What do you need? Could you guys help me find some better clothes? And then in a blink of an eye, the stable boy's clothes were fresh and shining. They were even pressed. Now the boy was successful in getting those new clothes, but he was still a little foolish because he wasn't very careful about making sure that no one was watching what he was doing. Because at that very instant from her window, yes, the king's selfish oldest daughter was watching, and she saw everything. She saw how the stable boy went to the garden with old nasty clothes, how the stable boy turned his ring, how 6 little men appeared, and instantly he received new clothes. And who would have thought but the king's selfish daughter began to spend a portion of each day plotting to steal the stable boy's ring. You see, she truly was selfish. And the princess came up with a plan. It wasn't a terribly complicated plan, but it was effective. And one day, right around noon, while the stable boy napped, the king's daughter secretly took the ring off the end of his finger. So later, when the stable boy woke up and noticed that the ring was gone, he began to search everywhere, but he couldn't find it. It was stolen. So finally, after desperately searching his pockets, searching the ground, searching around the tree where he was napping, he asked his dog and cat if they knew where the ring was. Of course they knew, for they had seen the king's daughter take it from his finger. And unlike the king's daughter, who had a simple yet effective plan to steal the ring, the stable boy had a simple but non-effective plan to get the ring back. You see, the boy thought that he would confront the thief, and if she didn't give it back, then he would complain to the king. Well, life is full of surprises, but there was no surprise here. When the boy called together the king and the daughter together to confront them, the king's daughter denied everything when she was accused of being a thief. The daughter did not return the ring to the stable boy, and the king did not believe that his daughter was a thief. And so after the meeting, and with a new sickly-sounding cough, the princess turned and walked out of the king's chamber, quite offended of the accusation. If only the princess, instead of closing her heart, as she walked out of that room offended, if only she would have taken the chance to search her heart and open it, things may have been a little different. But the princess truly was wicked. And now, after the boy's accusations, she decided to take it on herself to get revenge on the stable boy. And no, the princess does not mess around. So one night, when the king wasn't home, the king's daughter crept out of bed, and with some branches, a flint and steel, and some kindling, she lit the stable boy's room on fire, so that he would burn while he slept. And as the room began to fill with smoke and flames, the dog and the cat woke with a start and carried the stable boy out of the raging inferno of a room just in time to save him. Unfortunately, the cat and the dog were not able to save anything else, including the fancy clothes that the ringdoers had brought him. The princess was disappointed that her plan to burn the boy to a crisp failed, but was pleased when she found out that when the king returned, the king decided to throw the boy into prison. You see, for the king reasoned that if the stable boy would burn down his own room, then maybe he might try to burn down his entire castle. I mean, it's hard to trust arsonists, right? And so there was nothing else to do but to throw the boy into prison. Now, the poor, innocent stable boy was cast into prison. He tried to sleep on the cold, damp stones, but the cold stones were not near as nice as the soft grass under the tree. So, despite the boy's best efforts to sleep, he had no success. The boy, not being able to sleep, paced around the room looking for any type of escape. But there was none. And worst yet, the boy's dog and his cat weren't with him, and there was no way that they would ever be able to visit him, for the prison was unfortunately on an island in a lake where it was very difficult for the dog and the cat to get to. It seemed that no one this time was ever going to save him. Not his dog, not his cat, and not the ring with its ring doers. He was truly alone. Now, while all of these proceedings went on with the king, the princess, and the boy, the poor animals, the cat and the dog, hid from the royal family by sneaking into the king's cellar, where they stayed for several days, sneaking food scraps. The cat and the dog were constantly spying on the king and the princess and the guards, anyone, as they racked their brains trying to come up with a complicated but effective plan to save their friend. And one day, as the cat was spying, he noticed that the oldest princess, the terribly selfish princess, was brushing her hair with her pale, bony hand. And then the cat noticed that the ring was not on her finger. And then the cat noticed that there was a golden shimmer from the princess's windowsill. Why, that's nothing else but our master's ring, the cat called, and the cat jumped out of the cellar and ran to the oldest princess's door. Then the cat fixed his eyes on the door and waited. The cat waited and waited, just waiting for someone to open it. You see, cats can't open closed doors. But luckily, it didn't take long for the king's daughter herself to open the door, and the cat, 1, 2, scurried unnoticed past the princess and dashed into the room and took the ring. The dog began to bark with joy and run in circles when he saw that the cat had successfully got the ring. The dog called to the cat, "Throw it in my mouth! Throw it in my mouth! I want to carry the ring!" You see, dogs and cats don't have hands, so they have to carry things in their mouths. And so the cat threw the ring to the ground, and the dog caught it in his mouth. Well, the two ran around the yard with joy. The cat arched her back and meowed. The dog barked and ran in circles. And the king's daughter saw how the stable boy's animals were acting quite funny, running around in the yard. And as she watched them running and barking and meowing, she saw it. She saw her ring in the dog's mouth. Then she saw the ring fall from the dog's mouth and onto the ground. Then she saw the ring fall from the dog's mouth and onto the ground after one noticeably loud and joyful bark. So quickly, she ran and grabbed the ring, dried it on her dress, and put it in her own mouth, so that no one else would get it. You see, people have hands, but sometimes people's mouths are better for safekeeping things. But kids, be sure to ask your parents' permission before putting things in your mouth, as it is a choking hazard. And also, pro tip, don't put things that were in a dog's mouth in your own mouth. So it looked like once again the princess, with her bony hands and rapidly worsening cough, had won the day as she pocketed the ring in her mouth. But the cat and the dog weren't going to give up so easily. And so the next day, before evening, the cat took matters into its own hands, well, paws. He went quietly into the king's daughter's room and hid under the bed. He waited until the king's daughter went to sleep, and the cat with his little paw tickled her lips, tickle, 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 tickle. The king's daughter bit down on her lips in her sleep. But it didn't take long for another tickle, 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 tickle. So she bit her lips again. Another tickle. She bit her lip and woke up. But a single small hair had fallen from the cat's paw into the princess's mouth. And so the king's daughter spat up, spitting and coughing, trying to spit the hair out of her mouth. But as she spat out the hair, she also spat out the ring onto the bed. She dived for the ring, but it was too late. The cat had long ago caught it and had hidden it under the bed. So in the morning, the cat snuck out from under the bed and came out of the room carrying the ring in his mouth, and said to the dog, "Well, we can't wait long. Let us go quickly swim to our lord who is at the prison on the island in the lake." Again, the dog offered to carry the ring in his mouth, but the cat refused. The cat reminded him that the last time he had carried the ring, he dropped it while barking. And so the cat put the ring in his mouth, and they began to swim. And they swam, and they swam, and they swam halfway across the lake when the cat began to grow tired and began to sink. If cat, you are having a hard time, give me the ring. Then it'll be easier for you to swim." And so the cat knew the dog was right, and so the cat tried to give the ring to the dog, but in that very moment, again they were so close, but yet so far, plunk, the ring fell into the lake and dropped and sank slowly straight to the bottom. The poor things, the poor animals, they were shaken. They had outwitted the princess, and then they go and drop the ring in the lake. There was nothing they could do. They had to swim back. They lost the ring. They failed their master. But as the cat and the dog swam back, things were going on behind the scenes that the cat and the dog didn't know about. For as the ring fell to the bottom, a large fish noticed this golden shimmer and swallowed the ring whole. And the very next day, as the cat and the dog mourned, back hiding in the king's cellar, one of the king's fishermen was fishing in the lake. And the fisherman just so happened to catch a very large fish, the very same fish that had swallowed the ring. And the fisherman gave the fish that he caught to the chefs, so that the fish could be cooked for the king's lunch. And as the dog and the cat continued to weep down in the cellar, the chefs prepared the fish, and then the chefs tossed the fish guts and scales in the trash. And luckily at this time, the cat decided to take a break from mourning and went out to walk around and found the fish's leftovers in the trash, as cats often do. And while the cat ate, because mourning makes cats very hungry, the cat was shocked to find the lost ring. The cat didn't ask any questions how the ring had gotten into the trash with all the fish guts, because the cat didn't care. He once again had his master's ring. After succeeding and failing, looks like they were going to succeed again. So what were they waiting for? Quickly, the cat ran to the dog with the joyful news. And the dog said, "Give me the ring in my mouth quickly. I will carry it. We know you can't swim very well. You could drop it again. I promise I won't bark and I won't drop it." So it was agreed. This time the animals swam quite happily to the prison, and no one fumbled and dropped the ring. The boy prisoner saw his animals from the window and rejoiced. The cat took the ring from the dog and ran along the wall to the window and gave the boy the ring. In a blink of an eye, the stable boy put on the ring, turned it, and wished, "Oh, I wish that the little man would carry me and my dog and my cat to the other side of the lake onto dry land." And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. In that very moment, it happened. And then the boy made another wish while turning the ring. "I wish that the little man would dress me in gold, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. In that very moment, it happened. The prisoner now shined and was fresher than any king. Well, the boy went to the king's castle in his golden clothes and announced himself as a suitor, and told the king that he wanted to marry the king's youngest daughter, and made it very, very clear that he definitely did not want to marry the oldest wicked daughter. Now the king didn't recognize the stable boy due to the fine golden clothes, and the king thought that surely any man who was dressed in gold would surely be an honor to him and to his daughter, and that this person dressed in gold couldn't possibly be a worthless nobody such as a prisoner stable boy. And so the king agreed to the proposal, and we'll pretend that the suitor didn't just demand the youngest princess's hand in marriage, and that beforehand the stable boy and the young princess were able to talk and fall in love. But yeah, that's how the story goes. We want to make sure that both the stable boy and the princess were both excited for the marriage. None of this one-sided stuff. And so the wedding was set for the next day. After everything was set for the wedding, the suitor went to the field and turned his ring and wished, "Oh, I wish for a diamond castle to appear where we could hold our wedding." And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The castle appeared within that very second. The couple held their fabulous wedding in the glistening castle, and they lived there happily for many years. But the stable boy and the youngest daughter were not the happiest couple around, for the dog and the cat, who loved their master and his wife, were the happiest of all, because they had saved their lord. And as for the oldest daughter, she knew that the fine young suitor was in fact the stable boy who had taken back his ring somehow, and she hated him for it. So she refused to come to the wedding and other family gatherings. Rather, she just stayed in her room and chewed at her gnarled fingernails for many years. The end. Now, what I enjoyed about that story was how the boy and the cat and the dog were willing to help those around him, specifically the old woman. None of them were perfect, and they all made mistakes. None of them were the smartest, but they were able to figure it all out in the end. Their hearts were in the right place most of the time, and that led them to success and happiness. Conversely, the eldest princess, in her greed and selfishness, slowly began to turn into a husk, a shell, a skeleton, as she was withering from the inside out. I also enjoyed how the protagonist in the beginning of the story is the boy, but then halfway through, the boy becomes quite a minor character, and the dog and the cat take the lead as the lead characters and the heroes of the story, which is a fun twist and a fun take on that. And the other thing we can learn from this story is that hard work is a value that is deeply ingrained in Latvian culture. In fact, according to the OECD, the Organization of Economic Cooperation and Development, Latvia is in the top 10 when it comes to hard-working countries, with people working more than 10 hours a day on average. Latvians know that you don't have to be the best. You don't have to be the prettiest. You don't have to be the smartest. But if you can just keep going, keep your heart in the right place, things will work out. And isn't that a lesson that we could all learn from? Okay, well, now it's the end of the episode, so it's time to go into our trusty question bowl. And let's see what we find. Okay, the question is, you can only get to eat one food from now on. What is that food? Well, if it had to be a dessert, I would have to go with donuts, but I don't think that would be a very sustainable food for very long. So if I was going just for tastiness and nutrition, it's gotta be the pizza, man. Because, you got your bread, so you get your base of your food pyramid, you get vegetables, you get your dairy, you get some meat. You got it all. It's quick, it's easy, it's fun. Everybody loves it. Pizza. But if I wasn't worried about nutrition, it would probably be donuts. So there you go. Pizza and donuts. A true American diet. I guess I live up to some stereotypes there. Oh, well. Well, that was second episode of Think Over Here. Come on back and we'll probably be popping over to a new part of the world next time. Ciao.